Welcome to Club E. Hi, I'm Rick Brimacombe of Brimacombe and Associates. I am your architect of business growth and will work with you to unlock your potential and amplify the scale of your company. Today, we're talking about the Minnesota Sports Facilities Authority. I want to thank our sponsors, Irish Titan, an e-commerce and web development firm, Goulet Group, CPAs and advisors, Highland Bank, a locally owned community bank, Romaine Berg, a digital marketing agency, Voyager U. They provide training, resources, and a community for you to launch an independent career. You can learn more of them in the courses section of clube.com. And another new one, past speaker, Projection Smart, startup and growth software tools. They will help you do forecasting and assess the financials of your business. Again, that is Projection Smart, startup and growth. And they are in the tools section of clube.com. Last but not least, the Network Connect, a catalytic gateway for growing your company. All right, before we get going, please hit the subscribe and like button for our Club E channel. Just takes a moment, right down by the video. Again, hit the subscribe and like. That will allow us to deliver better content to you, as well as let you know when we are going live. And also, you can catch our Club E on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, and others. So you can watch the videos here on your favorite video platform or catch the podcast. All right, I'd like to introduce today's guest, Michael Vekich. Michael is chair of the Minnesota Sports Facilities Authority, the governing board that represents the state of Minnesota's ownership and oversight of the U.S. Bank Stadium. Welcome, Michael.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Glad to be here, Rick. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Yes, and Michael is one of the very few folks we've had back a second time. Very interesting topic to talk about, interesting background that he has. And now with fall here and a couple of events happening at the stadium, we thought it'd be a great time to bring Michael back. So we appreciate you taking another part of your busy day out and spending it with us, Michael. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Michael's contact information is in the comments field, and that will allow you to reach out to Michael if you have your own individual questions, as well as reach out to us and submit questions that you have. All right, Michael, let's start with just talking a little bit about your background. You've done some very interesting things. Covered a variety of different things, whether it's in the private sector, the public sector, now obviously the sports world. Tell us a little bit about your background and the various things that you've done with your career.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody that's tuning in. Background has been eclectic in some respects, but I've been very blessed by the things I've been able to do. I am a practicing CPA, have been for a long time. Built a very significant firm in Minneapolis, and by the time we sold it, we were practicing in 9 foreign countries. Very interesting practice, a lot of large clients, a lot from Europe. The practice I have today is really in 3 areas: investment banking activities, governance, and turnaround. And still doing that, have done that since I sold my firm in the late 90s. I also decided somewhere in my career that I thought I'd get involved in banking. It always intrigued me because we did a lot of work with banks. And so a group of us got together in early 2000 and founded a bank, Tradition Capital Bank. And I was on the board there for a number of years and then stepped off as so we wanted a new group of people to come in, and we got everything in place. Today, I chair the BNC Bank and Holding Company. It's based out of North Dakota. We have offices here as well as in Arizona. In addition to that, we have a significant mortgage company. Very good rates if you're looking for a mortgage. As a part of that, we are publicly traded. So if somebody wants to follow us, they can follow us. I've had a strong interest in education, most specifically higher education. And I've spent I'm in my third 6-year term as a part of Minnesota State Colleges and Universities. Our marketing name is now Minnesota State. And I spent significant years as chair. I'm the immediate past chair, and I have 2 years left on my third term. It's been very interesting times right now with higher education, a number of things as we're dealing with COVID and everyone else's business and dealing with those challenges. I've been long-term president of the National Associations of Corporate Directors, which is the Minnesota chapter. We put on a number of programs each year, and most specifically designed for those folks that are serious about governance, as well as public, private, and not-for-profit. And then there's that eclectic part of my background, I think, Rick, is I spent about 30 plus years as captain of the Hennepin County Sheriff's Emergency Squad, a very highly skilled group of men and women, mostly involved with not the criminal activities of the department, but involved in low-level, high-level rescue, body recovery, if it was necessary, as well as major events. And one of the things that has always been outstanding to me is the role we played with President Gorbachev when he came to Minnesota. Many interesting stories around that. And then the last part is really, I have served the last 7 governors in special projects. As a part of that was very interesting. I was asked to take over and turn around the Minnesota State Lottery 2 times. One, when there was a major investigation and on the unfortunate passing of the executive director who came in, we turned that around, did well. And then a couple of years ago, maybe 3 now, Governor Dayton asked me to come in, and there was another situation that we did. So, and then also did a 21st Century Tax Reform Commission for Governor Pawlenty. And some of those findings are still alive today and being used by some of the governors on both sides of the aisle. So that's my background. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, working with governors on both sides of the aisle is impressive, and also probably taught you a few things in its own right. With all those interesting experiences, again, public, private, and different business kinds of things, was there something that maybe you enjoyed most or had the biggest impact on you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think in 2 areas. One was especially in the turnaround side, and the type of businesses I've been involved in there, most specifically, from smaller companies to larger, from a construction industry to other industries around. The interesting thing is being able to work through those issues, especially with the owner. All mine were privately held companies. When you get to a situation, you know this well, Rick, from the work that you do, when a company gets into a position of real stress, and folks do not really focus in on the answers, just get something done so the pain will stop. Clearly, you take them through that process. Generally, they know what to do. The instincts are there, but just can't get through it. So it's the resizing the company, selling parts of it, et cetera. So that was one piece. I've learned a lot about human nature there. I really was able to hone some of my skills as I worked with the different governors here in different facets. I listed out a few. I've learned a lot there. And I think the thing that I really learned is bipartisanship does live. It really does. As we read today, you'd say, really? It does. But It does, and I've learned to work and negotiate with people, number one. Two, to be totally transparent, never hide the ball. Working with the leader, the governor, where you keep that person involved, informed, and you never get ahead of them. And you always provide alternatives, and they might choose something different that you want, but as long as it works, it works. So those are the things that I've learned in those two facets. There are many other nuances to it, but I think that's where I would have my most fun.
All right. Well, you're already setting us up to have you back for a third time, so I hope you're open to that concept.
I'd love to.
All right. Hey, given that the kind of main topic, or at least what we're going to start with today, the stadium, why don't we go there first and just provide a little bit of foundational information about the history, the background, and just kind of give everybody some working knowledge on the stadium itself.
Well, it's hard to believe we're in our fifth year, from the opening. There's not been a lot about the stadium. We've pretty much shut down in mid-March, and only essential personnel are allowed in the facility. But from a background standpoint of what's interesting, we were averaging about 1.5 million guests per year, and about 240 events per year. And that includes, of course, the Vikings and 10 games. Well, we didn't have a preseason this year, but we have played a couple of games. So we have private events. We have international touring concerts, which, obviously dried up for now. Consumer shows, corporate meetings, gala events. So a lot of events that are missing. And our colleagues around the city are suffering also from the convention center to Target Center, et cetera. We always had people in the stadium. We hosted at least 44,000 guests per year. We also provided an educational component for schools. We can bring them in. We talk about sustainability. The stadium is one of the most sustainable stadiums in the country. I'm hoping that within the next year that we might be able to be certified as to one of the best in the world. Our sustainability process has been really good. One of the interesting things that people don't know, and I suppose when you come to an event, you're not looking at it, we have one of the best original art collections for a stadium. It's about, done by the Vikings. It's a donation. It's about $4 to $5 million worth of original art. It's something that when you're at the stadium, you want to look at it, especially on a visit. You will certainly hear. So the navigation through an NFL stadium for COVID-19 pandemic, but fraught with all kinds of challenges, especially the world of sports. And so we're working through that very carefully. I'm really happy to share that some of our insights and thought processes as we progress through this. This year I can give you a lot more detail about how are we approaching COVID-19. Are we really ready to have people in the stadium? And what would be different about being in the stadium? I would like to really state that we feel that we are ready to handle as many people that would be allowed back in the stadium and the protocols. And I'll talk more at length about that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So again, that kind of leads us right into where I was going to take the conversation next. For those of you live with us today, you know that it's a Monday and there was a Viking game for you local folks yesterday. So you now have hosted 2 Vikings games. That's the one that is the most visible usage for the stadium. Everybody watch on TV, et cetera. Tell us a little bit about the experience of hosting those events. What what maybe worked well, what maybe you could do better next time. What did you learn? But you have 2 games under your belt now. Give us a little bit of feel for how they went.
Good question. We've had the 2 games, as you mentioned. They went extremely well. Here, obviously, the first game had no fans in the stadium. So I'll talk in a minute about the protocol around the team, et cetera. This last game had Vikings personnel and family and friends attend the game up to 250. As you know, the governor's order does not allow above 250. And that gave us an opportunity to test our processes. But in August, we allowed the team back in. They did a practice just to get a feel again of the stadium, what processes and protocols they'll have to go through as they're working through this. And it went, all of those went extremely well. As we dealt with the people coming in this last game, went extremely well. The processes that we would use, as we use with all of our staff coming in, all of the players, et cetera. The first thing, distancing, which we know. Secondly is wearing masks. 3, we've had to change our pattern as to how you enter the stadium. You're not going to enter through 7 or 8 different protocols as we've had in the past. And then the media, which always has been very close to the players and coaches, et cetera. That's not happening at this point. As it relates to credentials, there's credentials laid out that allow those folks involved with the team and on the field, where the press can go, and then everything else from there. And that all of that has worked well both games. Everyone's been respectful of what's happening there. And as we're adjusting to these these new protocols and socially distancing measures, I haven't seen anything. I spent my time walking around and observing what's there. People are being very respectful of distancing, wearing a mask, except if you're eating. Obviously, that would make sense that that's what you would do. But clearly, it went well. Those people that were there, seemed to have fun. Just to be back, in the stadium. How we're dealing with food is a little different, and that it's all packaged now. It's fresh when you get it, but then packaged here. It's a new day until I suppose a vaccine appears on the scene. This is where we're at. But I think even with a vaccine, I think we will see the continued protocols in some sense. The stadium is very clean. There's continual cleaning working through. So it went well. In short, it went well. Thank you.
Yeah. Question. I don't know if it was at our stadium or some other stadium that I heard on TV, but was there alcohol sales? Let's cut right to the chase. The most important thing, could people buy a beer to go with their hot dog?
You could buy a beer with you go to your hot dogs, and it comes in a can or a bottle of some sort.
All right.
Yes, I could.
All right. And then another thing
You don't miss the important things.
What?
You don't miss the important things here.
No, I'm going to go right to I'm going to cut right to the chase here. So another very important thing that I heard on the TV was that the music was a little louder for the second game than the first game. Was that true?
It was a bit louder than the first game, but there are 2 pieces of this. Is the crowd noise, et cetera. That's all preset by the NFL, so that every stadium has the same. The music was a bit louder, but it wasn't overpowering. Of course, obviously was over there. So, and the PA system worked extremely well.
Right. It just that the TV announcer was talking about how, in particular, the pregame warm-up stuff, the music was just a little louder, so it added a little bit more atmosphere. That was what his comments were.
Yeah, yeah, he was correct. He was correct on that. Yes.
Okay. Then I have to ask, I haven't prepped you for this question, but there was a rumor, obviously not your stadium, it was in another NFL stadium, that the locals were piping through booze when their team wasn't doing very well. And I don't know if that's just a rumor, but I'm assuming the NFL controls what can be played or not. But can folks in the stadium be artificially turning on and off booze?
No, not really. I think that's a nice tale, but I don't think that's the case. It certainly does not happen here. I can tell you that.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we've covered all the important...
I can't say whatever's going on in Green Bay. I mean, that's a different thing.
All right. Well, now that we've covered the important stuff, the beer, the music, the booze, when do you think that, kind of for the fan, the non-family member, when do you think that the average fan is going to be able to return to US Bank Stadium? And what do you think that experience is going to look like?
Good question. I think let's give an overview so that we have a base. The governor's executive order indicates that no more than 250 people can be at any of his facility at one time. And there's a percentage that goes up and down up to 250. So obviously we're a large facility at 250. I think the experiment this past week was good just to get a feeling, about that. I haven't had current discussions today with the Vikings as what they're thinking about the next home game. Hopefully, by that time, maybe the governor will either have lifted the order or have, as they say, they had 3 dials. Facilities was dial 3, and that dial hasn't moved. So we'll see where the health numbers go. But I guess I don't foresee fans returning until those restrictions are really there. That's what I believe. But I mentioned before, we will be prepared for whatever number here. The protocols that are in place, and I'll talk about that later, what's happening, the ASM protocols, the NFL protocols, the Viking protocols, and that does all encompasses, the state of Minnesota Health Department and the city health department. It's pretty well done, and we know that we're going to be able to host safe events. But we are prepared if those numbers change. Let's say, for example, that we could host 3,000 people, for example. We know in working with the Vikings how that would be distributed throughout the stadium, mostly referred to as pod areas. So those kinds of things are laid out, how food would be dealt with, how refreshments would be dealt with, how to use the facilities, etc. So we're all in place for that when that's ready to go.
Okay. So talk a little bit more about the health and safety measures, kind of what you've done thus far, and maybe where you think this might be going, if you think there's going to be additional changes being made.
We're still restricting, we're still restricting the public, to only essential working functions. There's the rest of it. Although I have access to the stadium, if I do go and ask, I want to make sure it's a specific factor, because if I come in, there's a whole cleaning process that has to follow when I leave, and so it really needs to be important. But so as you come to the stadium, there's a questionnaire, number one, You have to sanitize your hands. There's a touchless temperature piece that's in place, and we think that will continue at least the temperature, etc. Plexiglass partitions have been put in place at all entrances. And on the food side, normally you would come up and see the openness. That now has plexiglass in place. We have put in, we always have had a number of sanitizing stations. There are numerous of those stations around the stadium, so people can feel very, very comfortable about that. But the thing that we've adopted at the stadium is called the U.S. Bank Stadium from ASM Global's hygiene program called Venue Shield. And I'm going to read a couple of facts from here. The Venue Shield was developed in a partnership with leading medical professionals, industry experts, public health officials, including insight from Drexel University College of Medicine and AECOM's teams of biocontainment expert. Program outlines best practices for standard operating procedures and is meant to complement policies of the state and local government. The program further specifies cleaning methods, applications, et cetera, et cetera. So that piece right here is, I believe, more extensive than most here. And I wish I could, take people, through that and just take them on a visit. So obviously, our commitment is to safety and health, so that so the health and safety of our employees is certainly a top priority. So we work very closely with the CDC, the Minnesota Department of Health, and the city, Department of Health. So as we continue to work through this, the procedures are in place. We can handle as many people as necessary here. It's going to be a ramp up for sure. When do we get back to a full stadium? I guess I would, my personal view of this would be probably subsequent to a vaccine. Here. But like I said, I don't see us cutting back on the health and safety of our employees and fans as we've already have in place.
Yeah.
Some of them, the temperature taking, et cetera, might not be there, but the rest of the protocols will be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Question on the temp. What temp gets a red flag?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm curious what temperature is high enough that it gets a red flag.
I got you. Well, I would imagine if you start, 98.6 is, where we should all be. I would imagine around 100.
Okay.
Would be an issue where they would ask you to stand aside, and then somebody would deal with that individual for sure.
Yeah. So there's a variety of different technologies. You touched on some of the procedures and safety measures that you've already taken. Of the technologies that you either have done or are in the process of doing, what gets you the most excited? What do you think is the most interesting? And then also what might set you apart, if anything, from other venues?
Well, I think a number of them. I'm pretty excited about a lot of them. The first one, I talked about this the last time I was on, a technology we put in called Atmos Air. It's a technology that restores the indoor air to its natural state through an ionization process. It has been known to mitigate or limit airborne viruses and keep the air we breathe in the stadium healthier. And it's and we've done a lot of research on it. It's been proven in labs, et cetera. That's one big item. So, and the other piece of this, from a taxpayer standpoint, because of that in the HVA system itself, we already have proven results that it saves costs. So that's really a very interesting thing. You can you come into the state, you can the air has a nice clean scent to it as you come in. You know, again, most people coming into a football game probably wouldn't notice that, but it is. The other piece that people should know is that we have the big doors, you know, that open up when the weather is, is there. So that adds another nice element to that. The other next technology that I find fascinating and was written up in the Star and Tribune is called the Green Zapper. We don't have anybody, you know, in a uniform with a cape on it, but we recently purchased it. One of the very few NFL stadiums in the country. It's a UVC light disinfectant machine for the turf itself. It uses germicidal UV lights and is specifically built to be cost-effective, efficient tool for the synthetic turf. Now, this is the second time we've used it, and we're seeing good results from that. It takes about 6 hours to totally disinfect, you know, the field, and I think people are seeing a difference there. The other piece is that we purchased is a Clorox Total 360 system. I think everybody knows what there. We purchased 7 Total 360 systems. It's a fogging device that's approved by the EPA. If you're wondering, you know, what really is that? If you watch the news, and most specifically when they talk about Delta and other business, and you see people moving around with a fogging device, that's what that fogging device is. So there are electrostatic sprayers that are used throughout the facility to disinfect individual pieces. So when you're talking about electrostatic, and I'm not trying to be a scientist here, but that obviously sprays electrostatic sticks and disinfects the areas. The other item that we're spending some time right now, and most likely we will purchase, is called a sterile wand. And you may have seen those if you've been out, you know, someplace. It's a handheld UV disinfectant device. So it's easy to use, again, with a UV light, as we talked about, for the Green Zapper. So that will be used for high touch facilities. So handles, doors, you know, a railing or whatever. So, you know, you will see a lot of that. Other thing that you'll see in the stadium on a consistent basis, a lot of people walking around with disinfectant, cleaning door handles, you know, cleaning, you know, the railings, etc., cleaning the escalators, etc. So those are pretty exciting things. I think we're ahead of most. I can't say that for total fact, but from what I recall and the briefings I have, we're pretty well ahead of most on that.
And I assume that the NFL is what's driving a lot of this, or is it the Vikings driving it? I'm assuming it's NFL, but just kind of curious.
I think it's a cooperation. You know, this all is a part of the ASM venue shield, especially around the Green Zapper, but of course working with the NFL and in the Vikings, they're obviously aware of this technology. So there's a real strong partnership with all these folks here, but we're trying to be ahead of most things as we can be and be prepared.
Okay. So a reminder to our audience out there, you can submit a question to Michael in the comments field. We will get to those to the extent that we can. And also a reminder to hit the subscribe and like button. Subscribe to our Club E channel. So again, you can be made aware when we're going live and hear about future events. And then similarly, you can catch us on podcasts. So if you want to learn more about the Green Zapper and catch the podcast version, you can also do that. All right, so Michael, I know you're not in the prediction business. You did kind of say you thought maybe a vaccine was going to drive future events, but at this point, do you think that you're going to host any events other than Vikings for the rest of the year? And then what, if anything, is planned for 2021, or is everything on hold?
Excuse me. I think for the rest of the year, I don't anticipate us hosting any events. Certainly not major events. And so I would say through the end of the year, no. But most of a lot of events have moved to virtual events, as you know, for 21 or 22. But the planning really is for sure strongly late 21 and into 22 for major events other than the Vikings coming back, to the stadium. We've already had a good outlook from our partners and those that wish to be a part of events coming here. So we're excited about the music touring coming back here. And as you know, we were to do the NCAA wrestling, etc. There are other things. We're looking at the swimming champion training facility also. And so we're excited about all of those, and we are all concerned about the fact that we get total arms around this vaccine is found, and we can start moving forward with life.
Well, let's hope for all of our sakes. As I talked to you before we got started about just human nature is to want to be in your community, in a crowd of folks, and sharing the human experience, and going to events at the stadium is a big part of that. Certainly for the Twin Cities and Minnesota and Upper Midwest community as well. So hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. I don't even know if this is possible, but if you try to get your arms around the economic impact that COVID had on US Bank Stadium, is that even possible? And if so, what would the magnitude of the loss be, and the similarly extra costs?
As one person has used the word, it's been huge impact. But the financial, there's no question that the financial impact has been massive in all respects. Clearly, on one hand, the costs in order to maintain these types of facilities or convention centers has gone up significantly. My sense of that, those costs will continue to be with us. They'll probably subside after things are back in place. Loss of business is significant. In some discussions with the city, when we take a look at revenues, they're going to probably be in $150-60 million range of lower revenues. The Vikings are going to have huge impact, from the season, as it relates to, ticket sales, food sales, et cetera, as we go through that. So the impact is huge. But we still do know that there's still a lot of interest in getting back into the stadium. ASM, as you know, is our operator. They're one of the largest. They are the largest in the world as it relates to operating these venues, as well as of the touring talent, that comes about. So I think we're fortunate to have a close partnership, with them. We're obviously known as a sports and entertainment destination, always have been as it relates to Minneapolis and St. Paul, but we can see, I've spoken with the leadership of downtown council and a number of events just that they work with that have been canceled, but they're working hard. Meet Minneapolis, which is the major event group that brings these different conventions. I was very impressed, on one hand, of all of the events that were to have been here this year, and obviously they have canceled, but a lot of them go unknown. They might have 5,000 or 10,000 people coming in for a week, etc., or less than that, and that's the sad part of this. So it's difficult to put an actual number on. There will be stats out there coming as as the economists take a look at it, but the numbers I think are in the millions. I would say close to the hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenues. The thing I think that concerns all of us that are listening here today, the number of people that have been impacted by jobs and the lack thereof. And we feel akin to all of the people that come and work at US Bank Stadium on a football game. We have about 3,000. Those are 3,000 people that are not working at the stadium and at events and going on. So I think it's incumbent upon us as business leaders and political leaders. We've got to get this thing fixed and find a way that we can reopen the world.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. So I have a couple of questions, Michael, that came in. And again, a reminder to everybody, you can submit your questions into the comments field, subscribe and like, join our clubby community so you can hear about future events. Question from Rob: what are some of the protocols that COVID created that you think are here to stay?
Good question. I think for sure, in some respects, for a while, will be the mask. Two, social distancing, may not be as stringent as it is, but that might be a part of it. The protocols that we have with the green zapper is going to stay. MSFA is going to stay. The sterile wand process is going to stay. Here, our personnel cleaning things on a regular basis, going through here. I think those are going to stay stay with us for a long period of time. And frankly, I think some of those are okay. Now, there's lots of controversy around, obviously, masks and distancing. I could see a point where the mask piece will stop here. And the distancing is, when you get 60,000+ fans, it's pretty difficult to distance. But hopefully by that time we'll see a vaccine. But other things I just mentioned, atmosphere, green zapper, the sterile wands, the Clorox 360 systems. I think they're a part of the operating process going forward for us.
I'm always, I enjoy it, but the kind of the pyrotechnic side of things, where kicking off so much stuff into the air. Do you see that getting pulled back? Or I don't even know if you do like tractor pulls, but do you see different kinds of changes based on what gets thrown off into the air?
That's always a concern here, but let me go to the pyrotechnics first. That was a big part of the Vikings, coming out. That was done away with when one of the facilities, I can't recall off the top of my head, had the fire with the pyrotechnic. So across NFL, there are no pyrotechnics, period. So now what you see, the smoke coming out is, part of dry ice, et cetera. So that'll be with us. As it relates to tractor pulls, all of the events that are what we'll call dirt events, because of the fact of the protocols that we put in place with them already, and making sure that most of it is, it's moist and et cetera. There still will be some, especially when they come in. But we've noticed from our cleaning processes and working with our partners, will be there. But one of the things I failed to mention, Rick, is as we get back into a process here and we have major events coming, et cetera, one of the things that will be important is that each of these major partners will have to provide a COVID-19 process, what their procedures are. They will know what each stadium, procedures are, and if those fit together, and making sure that those are all followed.
Okay. Question from longtime listener Matt. With the civil unrest and various activities in the street that were not here 6 months ago, what has the stadium done from a security perspective to improve, maybe, I guess it not even improve the customer experience because you don't have very many customers at this point, but maybe what changed, if anything, from a security point of view?
Good question. First, I'd say I can't talk specifically about security procedures. That just something that's why they're called security procedures. But currently, as you know, or maybe the number of folks don't know, there's a construction project going on at the stadium. Where the previous panels, et cetera, have been taken off and new stuff has been put back on due to a long-term settlement with contractors. So we've been fortunate to have lots of security fences up in the normal course, so people have kept away. We do have a very good working relationship with the city of Minneapolis Police Department there. We have our own private security on board. So we watch carefully around that. We've been fortunate, even when we, the George Floyd events that all occurred around that, there were a number of those that started at the stadium and then left. And this last week, Sunday, there was another protest, regarding Brianna, and so that all went very well. We've been very fortunate. Everyone that comes around has been very good. We did have some damage, paint damage to the ship, and a few other things, but we got through that, pretty quickly. So from a standpoint, I think the real question is, can I feel safe when I come downtown to the stadium? And I could say yes to that. There are a number of strong protocols in place that have always been there, even though you might not see them, to enhance your protection.
Okay, and then hat tip to you on the fixing of the panels, because that was done at no cost to the stadium and the taxpayers, correct?
That is correct. Yes, those are the things that the legislature, the governor, and the taxpayers are concerned about. So that is correct. Yeah, so that's going on. We did half of finishing the first half of the building, which was the north, the west, and the south piece. And then the remaining portion, the other half of the building, will be starting probably in April, or as soon as we can get the snow out of the way.
Okay.
So that's
you're optimistic if the snow can be out of the way by April, but
yes, I can be a weather person, right?
Maybe
I'm right 50% of the time.
Yeah, maybe you're reading the Farmer's Almanac and you know more than the rest of us. But let's hope so. That'd mean a good winter from our perspective, being done by April. All right.
Yeah, so we'll be done at the end of October for the first half. It's starting the next half. Yeah.
Okay. When you look into the future, and I know you've touched on some of the changes that are here to stay, but Anything else that you'd like to add or reiterate of what you foresee as necessities for safe events?
We have. It's a very good question. I think COVID, if there's a silver lining in COVID, is I think it's helped reimagine a lot of the things that we might have taken for granted here. So it's starting to think about, okay, what do we do differently? What would enhance things? So clearly, the venue shield has been a major reimagining project there. That's number one. Two will be continuous policies come out, and the policy of the CDC, the state, and the city will certainly have impact on all venues, stadium or convention centers, hotels, etc. So I think that that will be very, very good for us going forward. And I think we have a run on that. We've always had a strong educational process, with our employees at the stadium on all kinds of things. So, the continued safety of our employees, so that even if everything, starts opening, we want to make sure they feel comfortable coming back to work. And I think, again, those that are watching there in business or whatever, is a part of the challenge. Can I be safe when I come back to the office or to the plant or wherever it might be? So we'll focus a lot more on education for our employees, a lot of training here. And I guess on a personal, I could say, if I didn't feel comfortable with what's happening at the stadium, I wouldn't come back. But I've been very comfortable from the start of this, and ASM's protocols in place now, adding the NFL, etc. I'm very comfortable in being there, and I like the processes that we have in place.
Well, knowing you personally, Michael, your bar is high. Your personal bar is high. So if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially on the germ and COVID front. So
that would be an accurate description.
In fact, I'd probably put you up here and then the NFL down here. So you got to get over Michael's bar. And then, of course, you got over the NFL just by definition.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. So on a lighter note, give us a little positivity. Not that you've been negative, but it's just disappointing to see cancellations and all this stuff. But when you look back at your time at the stadium, what would you put as a highlight or two that was maybe your favorite event or the favorite thing that happened or something that, brought joy either to yourself or a stadium full of people?
Boy, there's so many events. I enjoy all of them, and I watch how well the ASM staff convert this stadium to whatever is necessary. But I think being a part of and active in the Final Four was clearly one of those. And also for the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was first, and how we transitioned, the stadium, how we got everything in place. Every square inch of that place was used, and how it came off, and all the discussions around it. It was interesting as I was talking with the security people of the city of Minneapolis. I said, how would you have described what's happening? This was live, like fourth quarter. You said, well, I want you to know this has been operationally boring. I mean, it just all came together. And it really did. It really did. And I think what it did for Minnesota, what it did for the city of Minneapolis, et cetera, was just absolutely phenomenal. And the one that I think is probably at the real top of my list is the Final Four, and working with the NCAA anytime you're dealing in a national situation with folks. And in both Super Bowl and NCAA had very high expectations. And they've done these over and over. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And this is what we want done. And when we had those issues where we had to adjust, we did. But it was one of those things, here I was thrilled when as the whole stadium converted, from football to basketball. When you saw it, and when there's nobody in the stadium, you would have thought that this was made for basketball. It was unbelievable. Every touch, every detail, that was there, got pulled off without a flaw. Here, it just all went well. So those two events were exciting because the fact of this stadium was dreamed first, as the new home of the Minnesota Vikings, and secondly, to be multifunctional. So when you see those two big events and you see all of the touring events that have come in, we've clearly, have mastered it. I can't imagine anything that we couldn't do.
So as we get towards the finish line here, if you had to leave the audience with one main takeaway from our talk today, what would it be?
That the fact that the stadium is prepared to welcome you back. And you can feel comfortable coming to it, that we have all the safety practices in place. Our personnel will be well trained. They will be as excited to see you as they always have. The Venue Shield standards are in place. And so that would be the takeaway here. We are prepared to welcome you back and hope that we move through this pandemic as quickly as possible to make that happen.
Great. Well, I look forward to being there hopefully someday soon, and definitely want to see the Olympic diving trials. That would be a spectacle. Michael, thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming back. Hope you'd be willing to join us again as event situation unfolds. So again, thank you, and please join us again.
I'd be honored, and thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thanks.